Good evening, everyone. My name is Randa. Thank you for joining today's webinar. نحن رح ننطر دقيقة واحدة to have all participants join the webinar. So just give us 1 or 2 minutes to start. Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining today's webinar. In collaboration with Morgan International, QFBA is really happy to present this webinar today and in hopes to have more webinars in the future. Today's webinar actually is focusing on two main and key factors. First, we're going to speak about change management. And joining me actually is Mr. Fadi Ganni from Morgan International. I will introduce him in a few. And as well, we're gonna speak about the SHRM certification program, this credible and elite certification for human resources management. Again, I would like to thank each and every one of you for joining tonight. Just to give you a brief, again, my name is Randa Bouajram. At QFBA, I am currently the professional certification specialist. I've been in the field of professional certification since more than 11 years right now. And today we are happy, of course, to have a new collaboration with Morgan International. We've been working together since many years. And recently we had one additional program in partnership with Morgan International added to our portfolio, which is the SHRM certification. And again, the focus today is about this certification. And the main topic to start with actually is change management. With us today is Fadi Ganni, CEO and founder of Morgan International. And I believe there's no better person to be introducing this topic and explaining more about the professional and the importance of professional certifications in today's Qatari market and actually in the global market. So, Fadi, thank you for joining us today. I'll leave
Thank you.
actually the thank you. I'll leave the floor to you, Fadi. Inshallah, we will be having a fruitful session. I'll be taking your questions at the end, but in the meantime, please feel free to add your questions to the Q&A or in the chat box, and in between or at the end, we will be able to answer them. So enjoy the session, and Fadi, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Randa. Welcome everyone. So بس هاي brief presentation is gonna be in English. I'll try to add as many Arabic as possible. So my name is Fadi Ghani. I'm a certified public accountant. I've been in this business for 25 years. I work with multinationals globally in delivering professional programs, other certification or workshops related to HR, risk management, finance, and accounting. So today's topic is going to be about the company's culture and how do you embrace that change, how to manage changes in today's environment. One of the things before I start is I'm going to go over the whole thing. There's a lot of information, so I'm going to try to be as concise as possible. And we're going to give you the tips and the tools how to go through this. Everyone around the world now is talking about change management. They're talking about corporate culture. The driving force behind this is technology. So all the jobs are changing. All companies requiring their staff to upskill, even experienced staff have to upskill. Most of the companies, they need to digitize. And this is why this is a very hot topic. And in order to be able to make change, you have to set the culture of the company to drive the change. So today, let me close this. 1 second. So today we're going to be talking about what do we mean by change? And everyone has a different understanding of change. When we talk about cultural change, we talk about lessons that we've learned. What is the response? The staff, humans, how do they respond when you tell them there's a change in the corporate? And what are the skills to become resilient? That is, you adapt to the change. Which are the best practices usually corporates do whenever to support innovation and change and have a positive corporate culture. So these are the main headings. I'm going to start with what is a company culture? Before we talk about change, we have to understand what is a corporate culture. When we talk about company culture, what do you mean by that? If I ask people, every person will give me a different answer. So in very simple words, a culture defines the company, how the staff behave, how the company, how the team members work together, what type of a culture, how they identify themselves, and how do they behave with their colleagues, with their suppliers, with their customers, the with their managers as well. So it's mainly a shared beliefs and the values that the company stand for that shapes the employees' perception, behaviors, and understanding. So you have an aggressive culture, you have a friendly culture. We'll talk about them best. It is a shared beliefs. It's usually from top management that is downloaded within the organization. It defines what are the beliefs and the values that the company will value across the entire organization. The other thing is it's very important to define the culture, Leno. It sets the pace. If you want to drive change, it sets the pace. There's no one right culture or a wrong culture. And it's not usually one type of culture. Sometimes it's a mix of things. We'll talk briefly about each culture and what does it mean within the companies. So again, before we talk about what impacts the culture? أول شيء هو human nature. So what is the human? We are all humans working in corporate. So the basic assumptions and the beliefs of every individual, how employees, customers, and suppliers interact, this is what really influence culture. So the understanding and the perceptions of the employees, how to deal with each other and how to deal with customers. And how does the company identify themselves? Are they what type of industry? Are they in technology? What type of business they are? And who are the stakeholders? This is, again, something that impacts and have an influence on the company culture. And what kind of emotions should people express? Yani some companies, you can complain to your boss. It's open communication. You can set up there's no hierarchy, and you can say whatever, you can raise your opinion. Some companies don't allow you that. So again, how you are you allowed to share your emotions, or they are suppressed? And what's very important as well is you need to align the company culture with the strategy. So if you're in a tech company, you need to align the culture with that environment, and it has to be aligned with the business strategy. So what influences the culture in general is human nature, the emotions you're allowed to express, and how you identify yourself. And again, very important, you align the culture with the strategy. So when we values that impacts company culture, so some companies, they value outcome. They're very much driven by outcomes. So they are focused on achievements and producing results. Other companies, the way they define that the company is fair, is tolerant, and there's a high respect for individuals. Some companies as well, they look at team orientation, where they emphasize about team collaboration and rewards. Some organizations, they value have good skills, detailed skills, analytical skills. Some companies, they want to provide stability. It's a stable culture, and you can predict what is the next steps. A lot of companies, they value innovation. They encourage every person to come up with new ideas or new processes or new businesses and propose it. And then you have some corporates, we call them aggressive, which is they have very much competitive spirit. They compete against other companies, and the staff, they compete within themselves. So these, if a company values the outcome or values the people orientation or team orientation, the culture will be shaped accordingly. It's usually dictated by the senior leadership. So all those aspects as well impact culture. So how does it show up? It shows up in communication between the staff, through formal lines of communications or informal. And the style of the communication and the style of management defines the company culture. So commonly used terms we hear about culture, it's either it's an aggressive culture, or it's a customer-focused culture, or it is innovative culture where people can express new ideas, or it's a fun culture, or it's a very ethical culture. It's driven by research or technology-driven, or very much process-oriented culture, or very much hierarchy. I mean, you're not allowed to speak to the CEO. You have to go through your manager, and so it's a hierarchical who you can talk to. Or it could be family friendly, it supports the family, or it's a culture that they take risks and they want to take innovation. So we hear those words all the time. This company is the team is it's fun to work with, or this company is very innovative. This company values the life-work balance. You hear those common words all the time. Now, is culture important? We define that it's important. Why? Because it will place the company in a strategic competitive advantage based on the beliefs and the values that is really have to shared across the entire organization. And we'll talk about it. So culture does matter. It drives innovation, it drives change, it makes people more and more efficient in their day and more engaged. So it gives a sense of identification, of shared understanding between the employees, what is important and what's not important. And it justifies the behavior of the management and the employees. So really, culture gives the same values, the same mission, it aligns the staff, and at the same time, it defines how employees should behave and management how they should behave. So it does matter. Culture is very important. Now, when you have a negative culture, you have disengaged employees, it really can hurt the company and can bring it down. You have high turnover, people being recruited, leaving and hiring and leaving. Usually, because of that, the costs are higher, lower profit margins, and it impacts the customer service and client relationship. This can be the result of a negative culture within organization. While if we look at a positive culture, it creates trust between employees and the customers. There's more sense of cooperation and collaboration between the staff. Any disagreement is immediately spoken about and solved immediately. And usually decision-making is faster and more efficient. So we can see that positive culture does produce results and it helps the organization to grow. So in general, we spoke about different terminologies, what influences culture. There are three types usually in company culture, mainly defined. One is team-driven culture, which is the focus is on training staff, upskilling the staff, and usually in those type of companies, it's a relaxed environment and it's kind of playful, and people are happy to go to work. This is one type of a company culture. We have the other type, which is outcome-driven. So usually people hire entrepreneurial spirits. The focus is on achieving the goals, and the company usually takes risks if you're outcome driven. And the third one is structurally driven. This is old mentality, is changing. So it's all about efficiency and stability and hierarchy, and they don't take any risk. And in this type of companies, usually it is the CEO who's always making the decision. So going back to team-driven culture, so what are the marks that you say this is a team-driven culture? When the team, they do outside activities, outside the work, they plan activities. You always get feedback from other team members. And third, it is flexible to accommodate employees' family lives. So if you have a parent, an old parent that is sick, you can take a leave. They will support you, take out. They're not going to deduct from your paycheck. So these are the signs that the company is team-driven culture. While when we talk about team-driven cultures, so people are friends, they socialize outside work, they get feedback immediately, they do a lot of surveys to see how happy are the employees, and usually people are very happy and pride in what they do. The outcome-driven culture, on the other side, it is more focused on emphasis on winning and achieving, and they focus on how the employees are performing. Are they doing a good job or they're not doing a good job? And how you can sense it, all employees usually are united together. Their main focus is success. You can feel it between the team. When somebody is successful or project is finished, it is shared immediately with the organization. They're very much outcome oriented, and the leaders communicate regularly and frequently about the importance of goals and accomplishments. So the focus is on accomplishment and goals and performance. People are professional with each other, but they're not friendly like the previous culture. Then we have the structurally driven culture. It's hierarchy, titles. It's very formal, and the CEO usually makes those decisions. Usually the type of companies you see like that, banks are very much oriented towards structurally driven culture. Car dealerships as well, if you look at it, is very high. If you want to get a discount, they have to go and speak with the manager. So it's very much hierarchy driven. How you identify them? There's strict guidelines for each role within the organization, for each departments. And usually the departments don't interact. They work in silos, and the majority of the decisions are made by the CEO. This is the structurally driven culture. It's fading away. It's fading away. In some industries, it's still there, but in general, it's fading away. So if you're a manager, you need to ask yourself within the company about what values does the firm, if you want to define what's the culture your company is, you need to ask those questions about what values employees and management hold, and how do they align with the company's strategy, and is the culture positive, neutral, or negative, and whether it's team-driven, outcome-driven, or structurally driven. By asking those questions, you can define the culture of your company. Now, again, we said positive culture drives growth, negative, people are disengaged. But if we want to go into more details about culture, because culture impacts change management, So usually culture and innovation, they are mixed together. So, or change and innovation are usually mixed. Those words are mixed together. So again, a lot of people don't know the difference. In a simple world, when we talk about change management, we're talking about you become different. So you want to do a change and you want to become a different. This is change. When we talk about innovation, it's different. Innovation, you're taking risk and you're dealing with the unknown. So innovation, you're innovating, you're coming with the new ideas, new process or new methodologies. You're dealing with the unknown. While it change, you know that you're not dealing with the unknown. You want to become different. Innovation, you're dealing with something that is not known to you. And innovation usually is not as frequent as change. Once you innovate, you can do a lot of changes, but you cannot do a lot of innovation within the organization. So it's very important to understand the difference between change and innovation. It's very, very, very critical. So the pros, we're talking about change. We define the culture, what type of the culture. If you want to go through a management change, you really have to define the culture, and then you look at the change. Change is very important. It's very important that the companies, they always challenge the status quo. Two words you hear all the time with the multinationals now is change management and innovation. And there are certain characteristics that goes with that. So whenever there's a change, it creates productive and efficient environment. The attitude is usually very positive within the organization. The outcomes are good. It leads to creativity, progress, and new opportunities open up. This is if you do it the right way. If you don't follow the change in a methodological way, the way we're going to talk about it, then it could harm the organization. But in general, change is always, always recommended.
Sorry, Fadi.
The
Actually, I
cons,
wanted to ask that because in some cases we see that change might not be healthy and might cause a catastrophe in some cases. So, as you were mentioning, that if not followed properly, it might actually cause
yes,
damage more than being positive.
yes, that we're going to talk about the strategies. We're going to get to it. Yeah.
Thank-
So here are the cons. The one you're talking about, Renda, is that if change is not managed properly, it causes inefficiencies, it brings the morale down, there will be resistance by the staff, and change might not lead to progress, and it might be very costly. So companies who want to go through a change, it's very important for the leadership to understand their employees and they follow a specific strategy to drive the change. Now, when we talk about change, you're getting out of your comfort zone. Always a change. In our mindset as a human being, we don't like change. We like our own old habits. Whenever we're requested to change, even in our daily life, it's not something we're subconsciously happy about. So, and change now have different approaches. You have organization-wide change. We'll talk about it briefly. You have transformational change. You have personnel change. You change the leadership. You change the staff. You have even unplanned changes, like what happened in COVID. Suddenly we're working from home. It wasn't planned. And then you have a remedial change. When you're facing problems, you really need to take measures. So on a very, very high level, I'm going to give you examples. When we talk about organization-wide change, we're talking about mergers, acquisitions, or restructuring the departments, or changing the organizational chart, or restructuring the leadership, or adding new policies, or introducing new CRM system. This is usually, it impacts the company on a large scale. If there's a merger or acquisition or restructuring departments, the entire company is impacted, even if you change the leadership. The second type of change is transformational change. So this is something about changing the company strategy and to transform their plans and their game. usually, sometimes it is required to do that. Examples would be if you change your business to e-commerce business, or you have an existing product not doing well, and you take it off. You don't anymore sell that product, and you develop a new product. That's transformation. Or if you change a major software within the organization from one major software to another, this is as well that requires new capabilities. This is transformational change. So this is change to the better. Sometimes you have to do it. So it's not completely company-wide, but it is based on the case. It's usually you're transforming the business from the way it's working to something different. Then you have personnel change. Here we're talking about layoffs and change of responsibilities. Sometimes you merge two jobs together. You let go of certain role within the organization. And people think that personnel change is only in bad times. And this is the mistake always people that they make. Even in growth period, even in growth period, change is not only in bad times, in good times, there's a lot of layoffs as well. Why? When the company is growing, they require different set of skills. So I'll give you an example. Microsoft has always been doing well, but every 3, 4, or 5 years, you see a major layoffs and new hiring coming on board. Why? Because the business is changing and they need a new blood, new thinking to support with their mission. So this is usually when the staff is changing. It's very important during that phase you communicate why you're doing that to all the employees so you don't create some kind of panic within the organization. And then you have the unplanned changes. So an event happened, example, COVID. A lot of people had to go and use more technology because you couldn't simply go to work. So it could be weather-related events, it could be civil wars, it could be technology failures or data breaches, which you require to make changes. If you have a breach in your data, you might have to change your policies and procedures and how you manage your data. If you have a civil war within the company, within a country, the business have to adapt and make changes because it's an unplanned event. And then we have the remedial change. Remedial change is usually you look at deficiencies within the organization and you try to fix those deficiencies. So it could be changing a policy, changing certain employees or certain management. It's not on a company level. So it's mainly to fix specific deficiency within the organization. And the question is always, when is change necessary? It is very important that change it's on an ongoing basis. It's not one event. And the good companies successful, they do it gradually. They keep on changing gradually. It's not like everything is stagnant and suddenly there is a change. So if the competition is changing, you have to make change. If technology is changing, you have to you need to make changes. Diversity in the workforce. If you're not diverse now, you might have to change that. Or you don't have diversity, or you see one diverse as well, you might have to drive changes. If you have companies growing fast, you need changes. If the company is not growing, you need to make change. Technology, you need to stay up to date. And regulations, it might be laws that comes out where the company has to make changes to accommodate the laws. So these are usually the principle where the change is required. One of the changes which I have not addressed is disruption. So I'll give you an example. You have a small company suddenly come up with an innovative idea that is disrupting the entire industry. And this is a required change. A simple example would be Uber. So we're all used to the typical the taxis and how we book the taxes and everything. So Uber caused disruption. They came up with a software that changed the industry. Another example is Netflix. You know, it killed the video streaming. Netflix has killed the traditional satellite that we're used to. So companies who do not pay attention to these disruptors, they might be wiped out. Another case is Nokia, the phone Nokia, if you remember. You had Samsung and Apple coming in, disrupting with the technology, screens and everything. They did not pay attention to it, and suddenly they're out of the market. So disruptors are important to watch them, and they might come in and impact the business. Now, if we look at the human nature and change, that's something you really need to understand in order to be able to manage the team. So every human being, we have something called the amygdala, we call it the amygdala, which is two glands that sits at the lower base of the brains. Okay, it is on the east side of our brains. These two glands, they influence our behavior. And whenever there's change, they felt there's threat in it, they produce emotions. And those emotions can be you freeze, you faint, you fight, or you run away. So these two glands, they interpret what's going around them and they produce the emotions, and the emotions will trigger your action. Every human has those glands. And it's very important as a leader. What I'm trying to get here into the emotions of people, how they react to a change. Change always is a threat. And whenever there's a threat, other people, they fight it, or they run away, or they freeze, or they can go along. So those two glands, they set the emotions that you're gonna carry. So immediately those glands will interpret the change as a threat. And if the change is not gonna benefit the employees, they're gonna act negatively. One example is when you win the lottery, those glands will produce a positive feeling, and you know that you're benefiting. But if you ask a staff member to change a process that they've been working on for years, they're gonna say, "Oh no, we've always done it that way. It's not gonna benefit me. It's gonna give me trouble." So you have to be very careful how you introduce the change. And of course, emotional intelligence, fear, anxiety, frustration, you have to manage all of that, okay? Because the people feel as if they lost something and they're grieving. Uh, People usually are attached to routine, old habits. So you have to deal with the people when you're going through change as a manager, as if the people are grieving. And you need to give them the confidence level, let them grieve, don't pressure them a lot, and eventually they come along. So it's very important that you manage that process properly. So summarize that is that, which is now being taught with the Kuber business model. Whenever there's a change, there's a denial or there's a shock, and then there's a frustration. Some people, they go through depression, and then they start experimenting how to get out of it, and they make a decision whether they want to continue and adapt, and they learn how to adapt and integrate, and then they will integrate. So these are stages whenever people go through, whenever there's a change. And this is usually, it takes time. And usually you have to understand this mechanism because the people within the organization will go through those processes whenever you're going. So the common reaction would be, I'm feeling bad. They focus on the negative and not the good side. Maybe that change is positive, but people tend to stick to the loss feeling and they focus on the bad side. Some people, they become isolated and lonely. Some people become tired because of the stress. And whenever there's change, a lot of people, they say we need resources. So people might stress on the need for resources, and some people might revert back to old habits. This is usually the common reaction whenever you're going through a change. Feeling bad, you focus on the negative, you feel isolated, you're tired, the company is changing, they're requiring us to do this, we need more resources, we cannot do it, and we're better off doing it the way we were doing it. So you have to be very careful.
Fatty,
So,
I have a question, please. Sorry for
yes.
interrupting. Actually, it's something common and we see a lot, especially in some industries and sectors, not only in Qatar, actually. I'm speaking especially in the Middle East region and in Europe and US. When do you think that change should be implemented on some staff members and not on others because others might be close to retirement and might resist and go through that depression? So is age considered when change is being done?
No. When you go
Not at
through
all.
that, there's no consideration for age because you need the entire organization. You don't want to have blockers within the system. It is usually it's across the board, but there are ways to deal with it.
Yeah.
For example, all people who've been doing used to working for a company, been doing the same thing for the last 20 years, you probably have to spend more time with them. You need to pay attention to them. You need to be patient with them and give them the time. Change have to go across the board, but different people, different ages, you might have to deal with them differently. And at one point, you might have to let go of people. It's a
Yeah.
decision that a company has to take. So again, going back to those feelings, and here I'm going to address it. So the feeling awkward, you don't feel good about the change. So the manager, the first thing they should do is they should be mindful of the feelings of the people during those times. So the manager have to understand that the employees are going through stressful time, and they have to be mindful whenever they're making decisions. As for the focusing on the negative, you need to give time to the people to process because gossip starts going around, and they're really, it's like they've lost something, a sense of loss. So you have to give them time. You cannot push very fast around this. You need to give the time to be able to process and understand. This is another thing that the management have to do. In respect to isolation and loneliness, so there's the questions, why me? Why I have to change that? You need to make the people feel connected. So it's very important that you provide the information and you communicate very clearly to the team. It could be done through formal channels or informal channels at lunchtime. So you meet with the team informally in the hallway, anything. You just make them relaxed and you tell them that we're going to be okay. You're going to be part of that change. We're counting on you. You give them that boost. And when it comes to feeling tired because of the changes, you need to be really focused on the people's energy during that time. So you really need to act as a motivator because people don't have the energy. You have to push them and you have to be the role model. When it comes to the resources, a lot of people say we cannot do that. We need more staff. It's very important that you explain to the people that change is not about adding more people. We can do it, and we need to control those budgets. So the first thing that goes in people's mind, we're going to go change, we need more people. And it's not always the case. You need to explain it to the team members. And whenever you see somebody shifting back to the old habits, you need to keep on reminding them how they will benefit by going through that change and what's in it for them. And that if they don't go through that change, they're not going to be in a good situation, and it is to their own advantage. So these are type of the things that management has to do. And part of this is resilience. So we all hear about the next skills level required of people is to be resilient and agile. We've heard it a lot of time. So what do we mean by resilience is people have to are prepared for changes. They can recover easily from stressful environment, and they adapt very quickly. So the people, what you hire as well in today's world, one of the top 3 skills requirement of employers now, they look at adaptable people and they look at resilient people. Why is it important? Because you need people who are adapt to changes, and they are fighters, and they can adapt and find solutions to help you through those changes. So how does it show a person is resilient or not? They are adaptable. Usually they make new plans. Whenever you suggest a change, they come up with a plan and they're ready to execute them. They have a positive view of the change and the strength and their ability, and they communicate very well, and they have those type of problem-solving skills, and they act immediately. It's not like they have to process and wait a long time. They're usually very reactive. These are the type of people that you have to identify while you're going through the changes and make them not leaders, drive that change. So how do you navigate it? Usually, resilience, what are the tools? You have to give balance and flexibility. What I mean by that is that you shouldn't be very strict and you shouldn't be very flexible. You have to be in between. You have to be mindful as well. And assumptions, people start assuming certain things. So communication is very important during that time. Clear objectives, what they are. And you need to start building good habits. Some type of those habits is that you have short meetings, you have frequent communication. You need to start driving habits, sharing surveys, what's going on with the team. You need to manage the expectations as well. You need to tell them what is expected and what is the outcome, because people are usually lost in that. And you have the yes versus no. Yeah, the people who say yes and they want to go ahead, you deal with them different than those people who are resisting. And you need to be positive all the time, even if it's stressful environment. If the leadership is positive, it will translate to the team's members. So when we talk about the balance, again, you should let go of being perfectionist. You should be realistic and reasonable. One, you need to take the time to deal with the anger and anxiety, and you need to change the perception of the people. And you need to show them the new experiences. When it comes to mindfulness, is that don't make judgment if people are stressed. Uh, you have to observe the thoughts and how it's impacting, and you need to get away from this is right and this is wrong. You'll be in that gray area. When it comes to the assumptions, I'm just watching the time. So it's very important to clear any expectation and not to blame the people. What I mean by that, people start assuming things and there's a blame. So you really, really need to answer all the questions and be straightforward and avoid the blames. Who did this? Or what happened? How do you solve this? So you need to start talking with communicating with the people, and don't say this is not going to work or this. So you need to find ways to get behind the idea and move forward. So when we talk about powerful habits, is that you need to stay positive and you need to remind people how important the change is for growth. Toxic talk, you need to avoid that. And that's the way we've always done it. These are the type of things that will not lead to anywhere. And set the expectation correct. And you might have to hire new people as well. And you really need to clarify every step along the way in a very simple words. through formal and informal communications. And finally, when we say is that you need to work with the people who have the yes mentality, it's not important who gets the credit. Even if you're doing a major job and the team is getting the credit, it's fine with that. New ideas raised by the team, you have to listen to that and react when people suggest new ways of doing things. Show that you are interested. Don't shut down any new idea. Don't squash any creative idea or opportunities for collaboration. These are tricks. And when we talk about the sugar-free, is you have to be realistic. You have to tell the people we understand the stress. It's not like there's no stress. You need to be realistic. You need to acknowledge the difficulties and navigate through all that in a positive way to overcome any mechanism. So again, companies usually when they go through management change, it's not a one-time thing. It's usually step at a time. It's not a one event. It's usually multiple events done you don't wait until the problem happens. You start reading the market and you start driving the changes slowly, slowly through several events. It's a continuous thing. So to have a positive, you need to establish trust with your team. So the team have to trust you. And there's a way to create that trust. You need to empower the team as well. You need to be an inspiration to your team. You need to educate your team. If you're bringing new software, you need to explain to them about the benefits, do training sessions for them. You need to keep them engaged. And if somebody fails, you need to support that. If somebody is not able to and they fail, a project has failed, you need to support it as well. So the actions, when you say trust, is about being transparent, you be consistent, you hold accountable. We did the mistake here. It's fine. I am held accountable. And try to be compassionate with your people. How you empower your team, you delegate. Not too specific only to management. You delegate responsibilities across the entire organization, and you don't micromanage, because if you micromanage, it's like you're not giving any trust to the employees, and you let them do it their own way, of course, within certain parameters. You need to inspire your team as well by telling them what's in it for them, and you reward new ideas, and you let them fail as well. So if there's a failure, you learn from that. And the way you educate your team, you have through communication, emails, you can do workshops, you can have one-on-one. So there are various ways to really keep them informed and educated. And you need to engage the team. You don't shut them down. So create opportunities to have a discussion with the team, hold several meetings, ask for feedback, and be open to any questions. And again, regular staff meeting is very important. Messaging, texting, emails, just to keep everybody aligned is very important. And if they fail, it's not a big problem. Don't hide the failures. You say we all did a mistake. We learn from it. We embrace the failures. Usually companies that are innovative are the companies who are willing to take risk and failure. Companies that do not want to take any risk and don't accept a failure, usually they don't innovate. So, in the final few words, and I hand it over to Randa. So how do you define if your company is change ready or not? So there's change ready, you look for the future. If you don't look for the future, you want to maintain status quo, you're not change ready. If you have autonomy that you delegate to the staff, you are ready for the change. If you are micromanagement, you're not ready for the change. If you accept challenges, you are. And if you want to be in the comfort zone, you're not ready for the change. If people feel accountable and they take responsibility, you're ready for the change. If there's always excuses why we cannot do these things, you're not ready for the change. And if your company is collaborative, you're ready for the change. While if the company works in silos, you're not ready for the change. So in summary, reactions would be to a change: feeling awkward, feel lost, isolation, loneliness, fatigue, obsession with resources, and revert to old habits. Resilience, you can use it to navigate change by being balanced and flexible, mindful, avoid the assumptions, and create good habits, set the expectations, and work with the people who say the yes more than the no, and be very transparent with the positivity. So you need to understand the stressful environment, and you can't sugarcoat it. So this would be the end of 45 minutes. I tried to cover as many aspects as I can because we can spend 3 days talking about change management and going through those discussions. I'm going to hand it over to you, to Renda. You go over the SHRM and how it covered these type of things and management people, and then we'll answer any questions.
Yes, Fadi. Actually, before moving forward to the SHRM certification awareness, if I can say, I would like to address a question because Amina has been waiting for a while. So Amina was asking,
Yes.
does ethical practice in the organization define the changes in the culture of the organization?
Yes, ethics have impact on the culture of the organization. So if the company is definitely ethics will impact the culture, and the culture will have an impact on the change. So if a company is ethical, what I mean by ethical is that they're very transparent. There's no management is very ethical of dealing with the staff and with the customers. Usually there's a code of ethics within the organization. Most of the companies, they have code of ethics that they have to follow, and they need to train the staff on it. So part when we talk about education and training, it's very important now to train the staff on what is ethics, because everybody has a different
Different
understanding of
perspective.
that. So ethics, yes.
Exactly, exactly. And Fadi, actually, speaking of maybe ethics and under this category, it's always curious since I've personally worked in many different cultures. Um, but I never thought if I can say a culture, a country culture might affect the change in a company positively or negatively, because some countries worldwide we know still have a lot of constraints. Maybe they are not diverse when it comes to recruiting people. Sometimes it's only still a man's world, or etc. So when it comes to that, do you think those those boundaries, or those things might stop or not help with the change that the management wishes to undergo? Or in other words, does a country's culture affect an organization's change?
Look, the country's culture, of course, when we talk about culture, we're talking about human beings, what they believe and everything, what they learn at school, who they interact with, and everything. It does have an impact. But usually in today's world, with the technology changing and the fast pace, it's no longer a choice for the company to talk about diversity or non-diversity or all those matters. The objective of the companies now is to stay afloat and to compete on the market.
Okay.
So they are obliged to change. And I know in the Gulf, when you look at the Gulf, Saudi Arabia is going through
Yes.
massive changes. Qatar is going through
Yes.
massive changes. If you look at Qatar, where it is now, and how much they're spending on building that skills level, that's a cultural thing that they're bringing.
Indeed.
So the culture of the I would say the culture does impact, but we've seen it more and more now where organizations and governments, they're adapting to the new ways of doing the business. And we've seen it across the world. Because if you don't adapt, if you're not resilient, you're out of business.
True, 100%. Before taking in questions, because we were able to answer Amina's question for now. And by the time you prepare your questions, first of all, thank you, Fadi, for this insightful session. And as you said, the topic is something that we can discuss for the next 2 days, but inshallah, we will be able maybe to conduct other info sessions and maybe have you come here to Qatar very soon and have this event or topic discussed on a bigger scale. But I know for a fact there are a lot of attendees today also interested in the SHRM certification. Again, this elite, prestigious certification that has been in the market for many years. We are happy to be collaborating with Morgan International and partnering with you to introduce this certification in the Qatari market. Again, it's not a new certification, but in the Qatari market, we are really happy to start introducing it and taking it to the next level. So just to give you a brief and not to take much of your time, because after a long day, I know you might be very tired. I would like to really address the importance of this certification and to really explain who or what is SHRM exactly. So SHRM is the Society for Human Resources Management. It's the body, actually, it's a US body. And this certification is not only recognized here, actually, we are just mandated to get you into the program, but actually it's recognized worldwide. We call this a professional certification in general, and in HR or other industries actually is a passport for you. So wherever you go and wherever you're applying in the industry of HR, you will outstand when it comes for you earning the SHRM certification. So just very briefly, let me explain the value of this certification. So it actually demonstrates to employers and HR professional has the current and relevant skills and competencies. It also delivers an opportunity to learn practical skills and competencies to impact your job immediately, because these certifications, if we want to differentiate them from other academic certifications or professional certifications, they are very technical. So the bulk of the material you'll be learning could be applied immediately and technical. It also provides a universal standard that is recognized around the globe, as we were mentioning, and it validates proficiency as a business leader by testing knowledge and how you use that knowledge. Now, as for SHRM in general, before categorizing the two pillars of SHRM, in general, it's the first ever behavioral competency-based certification for HR professionals. It has more than 100,000 certified people, and it's growing by the day. It's relevant to the real world situation. It's employer focused and the only HR certification backed by SHRM. What's really interesting about the SHRM, because I got this question a few days ago, because previously HR certifications were mostly focused on giving you the US law, and you have to memorize all these laws that are not relevant to our community here. So what's nice about the SHRM certification, that when you plan to sit for the exam, let's say you're sitting in Qatar or in Lebanon or anywhere in the world outside the US, the American labor law is immediately eliminated from the exam. So no worries about that. You just take the knowledge during the classes briefly, but when it comes to the examination, you're not tested on that. So in general, the SHRM certification is dissected into 4 modules. So we have the HR competency, which is actually a behavioral competency, as you can see in the graph. And then you have the 3 other domains, which are people, organization, and workplace. What's really interesting about the SHRM certification, like any other professional certification, is that they're always updating the material in ways to adapt with the market, giving you the updates, giving you the best standards to work upon. So you will definitely stay and be updated on everything going out around globally in regards to the HR world. So success comes not only from what you know, which is the knowledge, but also what you do as a behavior. And as explained, we have the SHRM certification has two major competencies, which is the technical and the behavioral. And of course, I'll be more than happy to share with you all the details by email by early next week or tomorrow, so that you can take your time and go through the material and get back to me if you have any questions. Now, in general, the SHRM certification, just to go back to the previous slide, let me actually try to take it from here. Okay, so actually, again, the SHRM certification, we have two SHRM programs under the SHRM body, which is the SHRM CP, which is certified professional, and the SHRM SCP, which is senior certified professional. Now, in general, both have the same material, but when it comes to the distribution of the percentage and the weights in the exam presented in the exam, that's what differs. So the SCP is more on a strategic level. Usually people who have more than 2 or 3 years of experience, we highly recommend them to undergo the SCP. And actually, this is a prerequisite needed. Whereas the SHRM CP, anyone interested in the HR field and has like the basic knowledge could actually enroll in the program. What's really nice as well, that previously, a few years back, the eligibility criteria was tougher, but now through seeing how people are developing their skills and how people are working around, like you may study marketing but end up really interested and have a lot of skills in HR based on your daily practice. Maybe you attend a lot of workshops, or maybe it's a topic you're interested in. So they gave that chance to others to really understand that they can undergo the program and sit for the exam. And of course, I'm not going to go through the details exactly how the competency is distributed in the exam, because these are details that you can inquire about later. But I'm going to go through the next perfect. The next slide. Sorry, I'm just facing an issue. It's a little freezing from my side. So the exam duration, as a brief, is a 4-hour exam. It's usually a multiple choice exam. And what's really nice is that while you enroll with QFBA and take the classes with us, we will be providing you with an online portal. It's a personal portal for you where you can be studying on daily basis. This portal has hundreds and hundreds of questions for you to practice on. And based on your practice, you can see your progress and repeat those questions over and over until you perfect them. These questions help you understand how to think and how the SHRM body wants you to think. And when you sit for the exam and pass, this is when you really know that, and they know that you are a credible person to earn the certification, because it is a tricky exam, not because they don't want you to pass, but they want the best people that understand the material and know how to think through and how to apply these standards to really pass the exam. And of course, we always say it, a lot of professionals have not passed maybe from the first time, but now they have passed it from the second attempt. They're doing an amazing job. They have got big titles. So don't be afraid or overwhelmed with what's coming. It's a dedication of 2 to 3 months. If you really put your mind into it, study on daily basis, attend the classes regularly, take notes, you will really pass the exam. So we know a lot of people that have basic knowledge in HR that have passed easily because they committed to the studying and they committed to attending the classes. Whereas we also have people that have many years of experience but didn't really commit to the program, that didn't pass from first attempt. So it's all about your commitment. We as QFBA, in collaboration with Morgan, provide you with the best material, which is the SHRM material, by the way. Provide you with all the tools, amazing instructors, amazing environment to study through, but it's also all related to your progress, your commitment. And again, speaking of the tools we provide you, as I was mentioning, we have many lectures. It's around 20 plus lectures. You have an access on your online portal for like 18 months And you have actually more than 2,500 questions to practice on. You have the printed material and the digital material you can access, plus the post-test. And of course, from QFBA, we provide you with a review session. Our classes are starting in September. I'll give you more details about the class schedule, but just to let you know a brief about the fees, because of course you're interested to know about that part too. So we have the early registration fee, which ends in August 18, is 10,950 Qatari riyal, and the regular actually, which continues through September 12, is around 11,450 riyal. This includes the material, the classes, all of the tools needed to study and undergo the exam, but to pay the exam, that's a separate fee in which we clearly will be communicating that with you through emails. And actually, you should know ahead of time that the exam fee is always paid directly online to the body itself. And of course, we can assist you on how to enroll in the exam. Again, this is the schedule. So our classes will commence on 17 September and will end actually in November. The classes are twice a week from 6 to 9 p.m. to accommodate to your working hours, because we are all professionals. And I think this is the best timing for you to attend the sessions. So feel free, of course, to reach out to me. Again, my name is Randa, and my email is going to be displayed on the screen, the slide before that. And I will, of course, take a minute to leave the questions to you. In the meantime, I would like to thank Fadi once again. And I don't know, Fadi, if you would like to add anything, especially that you were, Morgan actually was one of the first to get the SHRM certification to the region. So, of course, it's really good to hear from you how impactful it was to thousands of students, where they were now, at the positions they hold. So if you would like to add anything to what I have said.
Yeah, I just want to say is that today's market is requiring professional qualifications. It's filling the gap. The nice thing about the SHRM, it is the largest association of HR globally. It is the American, and their certification is a global. So it's not tied up to a specific country, and the market appreciates that certification. They have members all over the world. So I always encourage people to become certified. It gives you credibility, better salaries, and it keeps you up to date. Plus, you create a network and you have access to resources. Once you pass the exam, you become member, you have access to resources to do your day-to-day job. That's all what I can say. And thank you, everyone, for paying attention. I don't know if anybody has any questions. We're ready to answer them.
Exactly. I'll be waiting for questions. I would like to add actually that during our corporate meetings throughout the year, we have heard from a lot of employers that they are looking for people that have the certification to be employed in their organizations. So this is an added value, like the CFA for finance, like the CMA for managerial accounting, like many other professional certifications. The SHRM certification will give you that plus an added value to you as an HR person. And I also actually, throughout the years, we had many candidates enroll in the program just to get the knowledge, which is also okay. So some people do not maybe work directly in the HR, but they have a lot of discussions, a lot of debates. Maybe they are business owners that really want to understand what's going on in the HR world and how to really have the best practice. So anyone really interested in the topic itself, you can definitely enroll in this program. Again, we're starting our classes on September 17. And the registration is now open. You can save my email and our office numbers. We are available from Sunday till Thursday from 7 till 3 p.m. And we will definitely be sending out an email to you to review the SHRM program, to read more about it. And it will also include our contact information for you to revert to us if you have any questions. I'm not sure I can see any questions. I don't know if Fadi, you can see any questions
No.
available because I think I'm facing some technical issue here. But again, thank you so much, Fadi. We're always happy to be
Thank you, everyone.
collaborating. Thank you so much, and wishing you a nice evening, and looking forward to our future sessions, Fadi. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Fadi, if you can actually, okay, no, I will end the session because I just worked here. Okay, yalla, good night.
Yalla, thank you.
Thank you, Fadi. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.